haven't tried to actually convince you to read Odeum, so I'm going to do a breakdown of the story from books 1 through 3 up to 4. So here we go. So the story begins in 2007 and runs to 2011. All right, that's the timeline. And books 1 through 3, they bleed together. They're not really sequential. They kind of, like books 1 and 2, they kind of run along each other and into 3. So Kaylee Lynn starts out her acting career at a theater in Park Ridge, Indiana. Soon she discovers that it was inhabited by vampires. This is a mistake because Jas tells her, oh yeah, no, don't go in that place. That is a storage closet. And somebody goes, hey, go to the storage closet. So it's actually the entrance to the nest. And boom, she learns vampires are there. So her immaturity and her inability to communicate causes complications with her relationship with Jas from there on out after they have the mortal vampire relationship thing. She's 18, she can't communicate properly, and Jas didn't really grow up in 300 years. This petty turmoil, coupled with Lance's issues, who is another vampire in the nest, is a recipe for catastrophe. Kaylee attempts to escape her situation by moving back to her hometown with her high school sweetheart that she kind of broke up with, but kind of not when everything went to hell in a handbasket between her and Jas. Soon she finds out that her high school sweetheart is a lazy man-child jerk. She's learning a lot of lessons very, very quickly. About this time in the story, Book 3, Crossing of Eurydice's events, take place with Rosalind Davenport. Rosalind's husband, Mitchell, gets kidnapped by vampires. Rosalind joins the Order, which is a vampire hunting cult, because she realizes her husband isn't coming back and she doesn't know what to do with herself now that her reality has been flipped upside down. Rosalind becomes a vampire slayer and witnesses unspeakable horrors on her first trial hunt. Rosalind survives and joins her mentor, Myron, who is the guy who recruited her, and she hunts with him for the next 4 years. Well, Kaylee leaves Mike at the altar. She responds to Jas's call because as much as Jas is mad at her, he still doesn't understand his own emotions, and this deals with a lot of emotional immaturity. He calls her to him because they had a vampire mortal blood exchange. Kaylee responds to this call, not because she's in love with Jas anymore, but because at this point in her story, it was better to die at the hands of her ex-lover than to be tied down in a marriage with an abusive fuck. Jas, who believes that Kaylee is the reincarnation of his dead wife from 1707, doesn't kill Kaylee. Jas kills Mike. Agmes, Jas's maker, Jas and John, who is Jas's progeny, allows Kaylee to tag along so that they have some kind of thrall to fetch them blood and to keep watch during the day. Kaylee, who is beginning to understand the concept of quid pro quo, or something for something, realizes that she has to make herself useful and hatches a plan to get the vampires away from the Order of the Rising Sun, again, the vampire cult. Meanwhile, ambitious and good boy magistrate Gerard Silva, we are now talking about Book 2, which is the Keeper, gets his eyes on a case about the theater in Park Ridge. It was a nest that the council, vampire government, which is the theater nest that we were just talking about in Book 1, well, the vampire government was trying to split that up. Gerard finds much of the case is missing. Unfortunately for this workaholic, he just turned a young woman named Anna Lenore Ashbury. His progeny requires more attention than an occasional night out playing pinball. Gerard gets wrapped up in the case and causes a bunch of political problems because he's essentially targeting a government official of a higher status. This government official is Asilius, who just happens to be the patriarch of Jas's lineage. That's how that ties together. And Asilius is a High Inquisitor in the council. Gerard is a magistrate. And the breakdown of that is High Inquisitor is a higher level of government. They're a higher branch. They have more authority. And the magistrates are lower authority. Gerard knows he can't prove the High Inquisitor used the botched case to cover the infractions of those in his lineage. Again, we're talking about the case of the theater. The magistrate gathers his homies in the lower council of the magistrates and practically begs them to sign Asilius out of power to have him get arrested, basically. Gerard ends up shooting a couple shotgun slugs into Asilius to kind of help take him down. Asilius is taken out of power and Gerard signs new orders to bring in Kaylee, Agmes, Jas, and John. Kaylee, Agmes, Jas, and John had made it to Arizona and had discovered like this vampire commune called Phoenix Underground. And it was led by a megalomaniac and supposed king, King Dan. This group stayed at Phoenix Underground from the summer of 2007 to the late fall. And then Gerard's headhunters from the council showed up and then arrested them. Why did that happen? Because Agmes pissed off King Dan, Agmes being Joss's maker, because Agmes refused to do something that King Dan wanted. And so the king's second in command, Violet, she went and snitched on him to the council and got him arrested. So Kaylee, we're going back to her. She realizes that her assigned representative under the council, because she's mortal, that she's basically set up for failure in their government system, and she's basically just given a plea of guilty. And she takes a bold move and rips up the plea and essentially tells the council to go fuck itself and represents herself. Gerard, who is benevolent and actually has pity on her for being a mortal in a vampire system, he goes easy on Kaylee, and he asks her and Joss questions while they're on the stand to help build Gerard's reasoning of what happened, why it happened, what was going on, and for what his ruling will be. All of these little hints and clues and things are actually really him building a case against Asilius to really take Asilius out of power permanently. Even though Asilius is arrested, he still hasn't been tried. Essentially, Joss gets sentenced to turn Kaylee by sunrise, or both of them get unalived. Joss turns Kaylee. Surprise. That's the end of book 1, and it kind of slides into book 2 because you see the other part of the trial in book 2, and book 2 is more heavy on the politics. So we're going to go back to the heavy politics in book 2. The council's really pissed at Gerard for this really merciful ruling, and they think that Gerard went too easy on the pair, and they demand that the pair at least is exiled to the council's panopticon, which is a prison with 360 surveillance. And this panopticon, this prison, is out in Romania. Kaylee and Joss get exiled, and the plane stops in Ireland to refuel on the way out to Romania. The pair get their and their guards stay at one of Gerard's homes out in Ireland. Kaylee falls through time numerous times. And the first time, Gerard thinks that she somehow got out and ran away, and now they're a flight risk, and he's pissed. So he flies out to Ireland to figure out what the hell's going on. Asilius, while Gerard is over in Ireland, Asilius busts out of jail and scares Anna, Gerard's progeny, and then unalives Gerard's assistant, Charlotte. Gerard has a mental breakdown on the plane ride back to the US from sensing Anna's encounter with the 2,000-year-old vampire. And Anna is safe, Asilius escapes, Gerard arrives back in the States, Internal Affairs shuts down Gerard's investigation of Asilius. We're towards the end of book 2. A group of vampires who make up the cryptocracy, or the shadow government within the council, make plans to take over the world and cull most of the mortal inhabitants. To be fair, we deserve it. This plan is projected to take only 4 years. 4 years later, Rosalind's story continues, where she discovers a conspiracy that her mentor had uncovered. We're back to book 3. The details left behind by her late mentor, Rip Myron, spoiler. This leads her to find Gerard Silva. So Rosalind, she finds out about Gerard Silva because Myron finds some clues about the council, and that vampires are really not just demons, they're actual people with their own government system, and they have flaws like people. Rosalind falls forward in time while she is trying to go on her hunt to find Silva, and she gets a glimpse of a dystopia 500 years into the future. Her husband, Mitchell, she runs into him. He just happens to be a vampire that has become king of a small plot of land where they harvest blood from mortals that they keep like cattle. Mitchell makes a convincing argument for why mortals should not govern themselves nor have an education. Rosalind is offered to become Mitchell's vampire baby mama queen. Rosalind gives him a stern no before escaping and then falling back in time to her present. Rosalind arrives at Gerard's, and they learned that the order was created, founded, and directed by a member of the council, Halifax. Going back to book 2, in book 2, Halifax works with Gerard, and Halifax is actually one of Gerard's friends, so this is a major betrayal. Gerard gets mad and wants to fight the issue. He pretends that Rosalind is his prisoner, and he flies her and Anna out to confront Halifax in London, where Halifax resides. Halifax tells Gerard what's up. The council is a sham. There's really an inner government that's pulling the strings. And then Gerard almost has a mental breakdown again. Gerard is almost convinced to join the dark side, but instead remembers that time travel is a thing, because again, they figured out Kaylee actually did fall through time, and Rosalind confirms that she fell forward through time, and Gerard's thinking, well, if time travel exists, maybe we can undo all of these things. This is at the end of book 3. Gerard, Anna, they make a move to find Kaylee and Joss out of the Panopticon and for a safe hiding place at the Panopticon, because it's basically an impenetrable fortress, and they hope that somehow they can ad hoc time travel before the end of the world happens. So that's like a 12-minute brief overview of all 3 books of Odeum, and it's a huge spoiler, so sorry if anybody was spoiled. Chris is giving me thumbs up. Thanks.